Broncos head coach Sean Payton believes that the team can turn things around. He believes in their mentality with 3 games left. What does that mentality look like for this Broncos team? We'll dive deep into that and much more on today's brand new episode, Locked on Broncos.
You are Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Denver Broncos are hoping to bounce back this week against the New England Patriots, and history has told us they certainly can. Will they, though? That's the question we'll break down here on today's brand new episode, Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much to everybody in Broncos Country. Special shout out to all the everydayers out there who make us your first listen of the day every single day. You can get this podcast for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So make sure you subscribe or follow if you've not done so already, so you never miss out what's going on with your favorite team that you root for every single day, all year long. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter from Mile High Sports, joined alongside by Sayre, Bedinger, site expert, predominantly orange.com. Today's episode show is brought to you by our friends over there, the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Usually, as a custom on Mondays, we get to hear from Broncos head coach Sean Payton on a conference call. Gets to reflect a little bit about the game and a little bit of a glance forward at what's to come with this Broncos football team. And Sayre, as we talked about in our build-up so far after the Lions game, the last couple episodes we've done, we've talked about the importance that Denver has to take care of business in these next 3 games. And that's really something that Sean Payton kind of echoed, is that they have to win out. He acknowledged the situation. He acknowledged the reality that we have to win these 3 games, but it starts with the game in front of us, and that is against the New England Patriots and a Bill Belichick-led team. Certainly a challenge in and of itself, despite the Patriots' record at 3-11.
It definitely is. I mean, obviously, like we've talked about already on the show a number of other times, but if you haven't heard it, I mean, hey, you got Bill Belichick coming to town in December, right? It doesn't matter if the Patriots are 3-11, 11-3. We know that Bill Belichick is one of the best chess players, quote unquote, in the NFL and has historically been arguably the best of all time in that regard. So I think you're definitely looking at this game as yet another roadblock, another opportunity for the Denver Broncos, right? If you're really a good team, if you're really a playoff team, you should be able to beat a team that's 3-11, right? There's no question about it. Like that, regardless of who their head coach is, regardless of who's playing, the personnel, things like that, which we're going to break all that down because there's more to the story, right? Just like anybody that looks at interceptions, they always say interceptions, every one of them has a story, right? Well, the Patriots at 3-11, that has a story behind it, and there's reasons for that. And we're going to talk about the reasons why they could be a stumbling block to the Broncos. But I think ultimately, Cody, it's really just the pressure of this moment that's kind of getting to Broncos country a little bit, isn't it? It's the idea that, man, you got Bill Belichick coming to town. He could ruin your playoff hopes, and he really could, because as of today, Broncos only have a 21% chance, according to some playoff predictors, of making the postseason. But with 3 wins in a row, that jumps all the way up to 77%. So a lot at stake against the Patriots to begin with.
And hopefully some help along the way to bump that up to, better percentages than 71%. But there's a lot that Denver's going to have to do in between to achieve that. And look, Sean Payton acknowledged that, hey, like this is a Broncos football team that was once 1-5. And for them to do the things that they did, it showcased they have the mentality, right? They laid an egg against the Houston Texans. What do? They went and they brought it and took it to the Los Angeles Chargers and really kind of collapsed their season essentially there. So they can do it. Sean Payton knows that. Here's what he had to tell us about the team's mentality coming into this week.
I think it's going to be very important. We all watched the games yesterday, and you get caught up into the numbers and the percentages, and you can focus on the things you can control, and that's it's obviously getting ready to play New England, and that's it. And focus on getting this next win, because that's really all that matters. And it's going to take 3 wins, but it starts with this week.
It does start with this week, and obviously the Broncos have to be much better than they were against Detroit, because regardless of the quality of their opponent, right, Cody, if they come out like they did against Detroit when they play the Patriots, I mean, they might get their butts kicked, quite frankly. The Patriots, they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know the Steelers have been struggling offensively this year, but they've proven in the last couple of weeks that they can kind of help knock teams out of the playoff race if need be. and they played better, I think, against the Chiefs than the score indicates. So not trying to fear monger or anything like that. Just out here to say, I think definitively speaking, the Broncos need to play a much better brand of football than we saw on Saturday night in Detroit.
Well, Peyton even acknowledged, too, that Aaron Glenn's defense in Detroit, they did something that he expects Bill Belichick to obviously monitor a little bit this upcoming week here as they play. Here's what he had to say about Bill's defenses and how they historically try to play your offense.
Well, I mean, we kind of just saw it a little bit in Aaron Glenn, and those guys in Detroit did a good job. There were a number of snaps where they were going to, double Cortland. And so over the years, and we've had a number of games, I can recall one game in New England with Jimmy Graham where, Talib, went wherever Jimmy went and really did a good job shutting them down. It really forced us to find, other receivers. And it's one of the things that Bill historically has done very well. He's going to try to loot your strengths. And I think that's what good defensive coaching is, trying to force you to do things maybe you don't do as well.
Which for the Broncos case would be passing the ball, right, Cody? So I think that obviously they are going to try to force the ball into Russell Wilson's hands. And can he respond in that case?
I mean, that's the biggest thing, too, because as I expressed frustration watching over the weekend, it's irritating to watch so many other teams around the NFL who don't have as great a personnel as Denver throw the intermediate passing game like it's a big part of their offense, and they do it solidly enough. Like Baker Mayfield carved up the Green Bay Packers, and they had an intermediate passing game. And now I think he's the first quarterback ever to go into Lambeau Field with a perfect quarterback rating, by the way, this past week. So just for me, I think it's frustrating because Denver, their passing game is, as we said, it's either home run or it's behind the line of scrimmage. That can't get you into the postseason. If you were to get there, that's not going to win you a playoff game. That's where I've, kind of questioned what is the game plan this week for the Broncos. Maybe it could include a guy by the name of Greg Dulcich, which Broncos head coach Sean Payton gave us a little bit of an update on him, as we kind of talked about, as well. I know a lot of fans were freaking out like, oh, he was already back one day. He already got injured. As I said, I saw him in the locker room that day after that practice. He was walking around just fine. Sean Payton provided more context on his injury and what his hope is for him, maybe this week and maybe for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, they didn't. In fairness to the question, I usually don't like talking about injuries, but I just want to make sure that this was unrelated to his hamstring. He just had some swelling, soreness in his foot. We took him off weight bearing for a day or two. I'm anxious to see how he does this week. I expect him to play at some point in these final 3 weeks, but I don't want you to think it was something that was going to preclude him from doing that. But we'll see where he's at this week.
Well, I guess everybody can get off Greg Dulcich's back then a little bit, Cody. I know you and I talked about on the show. It was kind of funny. Funny in the sixth sense, right? We talked about on the show, like, man, lay off of Greg Dulcich and the jokes about him, getting injured immediately after returning to the practice field. And then, of course, he was not out there for that Friday practice. And so, of course, the people who are making these comments, they were, I don't know, whatever the word is, they were proven right, I guess, in some way. But
victory lapping.
That doesn't victory lapping. Yeah, for a player getting injured, I guess if that's the clout that you want, that's what you have to live with. But I'm excited to see Greg Dulcich play again, Cody. And I think that obviously he could add a major wrinkle to this offense and propel this team forward, I guess, into a postseason run.
Now, we'll keep Broncos Country posted. Obviously, I attend practice every day when they have it. We'll see what the injury report says. We'll see if we see DJ Greggy D back out there for the Broncos. They look to wear the color rush uniforms and the white helmet here once again on Christmas Eve. If you didn't know, now you know. Now you have something to look forward to there here, Broncos Country. But with that said, one thing we are going to do here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos, is take a little bit of an early scouting report on some of the key players for the Patriots offense that the Broncos have to account for this week in big-time fashion. We'll dive deeper into that here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos is brought to you by our friends, the Gametime app. And you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events, and more that are going on near you. They have last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. If you're buying tickets to the Christmas Eve showdown here between the Broncos and the Patriots, you can see what your vantage point of the action is going to be at Empower Field at Mile High. Plus, you get all-in prices that show you your total up front so that you know that you're getting a great deal without any hidden fees. And you can buy tickets in just 2 taps in seconds with the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
The Denver Broncos defense needs to make Bailey Zappe look like a backup quarterback in week 16 as the New England Patriots come to Denver. But what about this Patriots offense? What's been working for them since Zappe took over for former first-round pick Mac Jones? We're going to break down kind of this matchup for the Broncos as they play defense against this Patriots offense, which does look a little bit better. But Cody, we got to say thank you and give a shout out to every single one that listens to Locked On Broncos every day. All you everydayers out there, you know that you can find Locked On Broncos free and available anywhere that you listen to podcasts, as well as you can watch the show on YouTube, where you can also engage in the comment section. Cody and I check the comment section every day. A lot of other members of Broncos Country are sounding off in there, and you never know what you're going to find. It's a mystery in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, can we say something real quick? There's so many fans that comment, can you guys stop saying your first listen of the day or your team every day? Like, folks, unless you're going to pay us to do it, don't tell us what to do. We have to follow. If you want a show, that's what we have to do. If you want us to do the show, we have to do what the network asks us to do. I just wanted to address that because we get so many dang comments on it. We get it. I understand it. It ain't that big of a deal. Just move past it. Anyways, Sayre, my bad. Sorry for interrupting. I just had to get that out there because I usually reply to the comments on the thing from our show handle, and it's nonstop. Just, please stop saying your team every day. Like, unless you're going to pay me, don't tell me what to do.
Exactly. Hey, mic drop right there, Cody. If you could drop that mic, you would. But man, we do really appreciate all of you out there who listen to the show and partake. And so thank you very much for doing that. And let us know your thoughts on this Patriots offense, or how worried you are about the Patriots just in general, because Cody, I think getting a pulse of Broncos country, of course, anytime after a loss, you start to fear the worst about the next upcoming opponent. You start to think, well, Bailey Zappe at Western Kentucky, man, he was throwing for 6,000 yards or something like that. That guy could show up on Sunday. You start to think the worst about every guy. Ezekiel Elliott, he's going to go back to 2015 Ezekiel Elliott and all these other guys that they have that they've been stinking offensively all year. The worst offense in the NFL this season is the New England Patriots. They're still, again, you can't take any opponent this time of year lightly, especially a Bill Belichick coach team.
100% too. And I will say this, like, while the Patriots offense has been very lackluster and you look at how Mac Jones has struggled this year, I feel like when I watch the Patriots the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been pretty, but it's like I'm watching Bailey Zappe and he's at least operating the offense more competently than we saw with Mac Jones. And look, I mean, there were a couple penalties that even happened on New England that kind of negated a big play for them. Like, I saw Bailey Zappe have perfect ball placement on a back shoulder throw to Devontae Parker in this game against Kansas City. I saw him float one up beautifully to Hunter Henry. I think one of them got called back. I mean, Hunter Henry in this game, yeah, he had 1 touchdown and he had 7 catches for 66 yards. But I look at these different pieces that they have, and I think about one thing that stands out to me. They have the ability to hit the intermediate passing game here. And what did Denver struggle with? I mean, the Broncos secondary, Sayre, they're coming off of a performance against the Detroit Lions. Now, granted, Detroit has better weapons, but New England's weapons aren't necessarily slouches. The production hasn't been there consistently for them all year. They're one of the worst third down offenses in the entire NFL. They went 2 of 12 against Kansas City this past week, but they have the ability to hurt you on first and second down. And we've seen at times with this Broncos team defensively, that's where they've actually gotten hurt the worst, was on first and second down, not necessarily third down, because Denver's third down defense been pretty dang good. Not necessarily this past week against the Detroit Lions, but New England is one of those teams that I think they're going to look at, okay, what did the Detroit Lions do well? Now, I'd say that what Detroit did well is that they really attacked the Broncos in the run game there. Obviously, I think a big question, look, we know Ezekiel Elliott's going to play. Is Ramondre Stevenson going to return this week? I know he missed this past week with an ankle injury, something to monitor here. They don't necessarily have the explosive guys at running back that the Detroit Lions had, right? Those two guys in Detroit, they're workhorses, they're dogs. They don't necessarily have that. But if you don't account, and as Sean Payton said in his conference call, Denver's defense, they struggled with gap integrity against the Lions. The New England Patriots will capitalize on those mistakes if you don't carry over those corrections into your game prep.
They will. I mean, they're professionals, right? That's these guys get paid to play, right? So, of course, there's better and worse teams around the NFL, but man, if any given week, if you let some team, if you crack that door open, they'll come bursting through it if possible, because these guys are playing for their future jobs as well. That's the aspect I think of late in the season that kind of gets lost on people a little bit, is you think, well, that team has been bad all season, so they're obviously going to continue to be bad. I mean, that could be the case, but these guys, they're not just playing for pride. They're playing for millions of dollars. They're playing for their next contract. They're putting stuff out there on tape that they want teams to come after them after the season. The Patriots have a lot of notable free agents after the season, including some guys that you mentioned, like Hunter Henry, Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, defensively, a number of other guys as well. So it's one of those instances where the Broncos secondary, they better take it personal what happened against Detroit. The pass rush, Cody, they better take it personal what happened against Detroit, because the pass rush was non-existent virtually. I know they got to Jared Goff a couple of times, but I felt like those were mostly coverage sacks. The Lions had a great protection plan for Jared Goff throughout that game. You have to make sure that New England is very confused all game long, and that Bailey Zappe has no idea where the pressure is going to be coming from, and that your guys get home and make plays on the ball. It's just got to be better all around. You mentioned Sean Payton's critique of gap integrity. Well, how about missed tackles in that game? I mean, my goodness, when Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, Cody, when they're missing tackles at the second level, that's where we get games like the Lions, the Dolphins, the Chicago Bears. You cannot have that against the New England Patriots, because even though these guys aren't necessarily home run hitters, man, they will 5 and 6 yard you to death.
No, they will too. And look, I think that their pass catchers that they have in New England are very complimentary. Devontae Parker, obviously a former Miami Dolphin. He's got the ability to make some big plays. He's athletic. He's a little bit lengthy there. Oh, and we're also forgetting about Juju Smith-Schuster, who historically, Sayre, he's had some big games against the Denver Broncos previously. I think back when he was more so a Pittsburgh Steeler versus him being, I think a Kansas City Chief. I don't know if he hurt the Broncos. I can't remember a game where he hurt Denver in a big way, but Denver has to account for everybody in this game. And I guarantee you, New England, they're looking at what Detroit did well. They're going to attack the deficiencies. They're going to try to exploit where Denver struggled this past week, and they're going to try to amplify that on the road as they come to Empire Field at Mile High. Denver's going to have to bring their A game here. As bad as New England's offense has been, they have nothing to lose. They're still in position for a top draft pick overall, and they can play spoils along the way. They tried to play spoils against the Kansas City Chiefs, didn't work out, but they certainly can spoil the Denver Broncos' playoff chances. They got nothing to lose. And with all the rumors and all the speculation that after the season, Bill Belichick might be on his way out, guarantee you these guys are going to fight very hard for Bill B in the process there. So something to absolutely keep an eye on. Look, Broncos Country, if you've had a chance to watch any of the Patriots games, what concerns you a little bit about this week as the Patriots prepare to come to town? If you're listening wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, comment, interact, and let us know what you think about that. But one thing we're also going to do is, what does the Patriots defense do well, and who are some players that we have to scout on that side of the ball that could impact what the Broncos want to do offensively with Russell Wilson as that unit looks to bounce back in a big way? You're going to get all that action here on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos is brought to you by our friends over there at LinkedIn Jobs. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And it's always important to have qualified candidates to interview. And LinkedIn, they make it easy to identify who those right candidates for your job may be. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. As we jump into the fourth quarter action on today's episode of Locked On Broncos, we just want to say thank you so much to everybody in Broncos Country for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day every single day. Broncos Country, you make this show exactly what it is. So we just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to make us part of your day every single day here. Taking a look here at the New England Patriots defense. We heard from Broncos head coach Sean Payton a little bit early on in his conference call talking about Bill Belichick-led defenses. We all know coming into this game, more than likely, the Patriots are going to try to bracket Courtland Sutton. He's the most dangerous man on the field. He's the biggest threat here. And that's where I think we have questions about what can the Broncos offense do to negate that, because that's going to be the strategy. And Denver has been limited in the sense, and I think this is more so relative to Russell Wilson's height, when he's not able to create those off-structure plays, roll out, and do the things we've seen him do well this season, Denver's offense takes a massive hit because they don't necessarily have a middle-of-the-field passing game. They don't necessarily have the slant route game. Like we've seen that a couple of slant routes in the last couple of weeks, some RPO stuff. But the issue for Denver has been they just don't have a consistent presence. That to me is a little bit concerning as we go into this game here, especially with some guys on the back end like Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar at the safety position. These guys play the way that Bill Belichick wants them to play at the defensive back position. And that's something I think we have to account for here this week as we do some pre-scouting for Sunday's game. I almost said Saturday. Sunday's game against the Patriots.
Yeah, you never know when the Broncos are going to be playing. They've almost played every day of the week this season, it feels like. But, I mean, to your point, Cody, the struggle is due likely, not likely, but really I think it's rooted in the fact that the Broncos don't have the ability to run the ball and lean on the run at this point. I mean, that's the struggle right now. We've seen some great games with them running the ball, but the consistency in the pass game, which has not been existent this season, is really worrisome going into a game against a defense that's going to play technically and fundamentally sound, and they're going to be attacking the ball, actively trying to make you make mistakes. Where that comes into play for the Broncos as a major negative, in my opinion, is the fact that you don't really have anything to lean on right now, at least as of that Detroit game, right? I mean, like I said, we've seen times throughout the season where you can lean on the run, where you can lean on those explosive plays downfield, and where your offensive line does dominate. But there's more times I feel like where you're kind of struggling to do anything. I mean, it's 2 yards on first down carry, and then it's you try a pass on second down, but it goes nowhere because you threw it behind the line of scrimmage, and then you have to kind of chuck it deep or hope for some yards after the catch on third down. It's just not a formula for any sort of sustained success. So the fact that you can't lean on the running game on those early downs right now is really killing the Broncos, because they can't set up those yak plays on second and third down. You've got to throw it beyond the sticks. You've got to make sure that you're getting a conversion, as opposed to, they just don't have any way to stay on schedule consistently, which is where a team like New England, I think, is going to make a lot of problems for you, because they're going to be opportunistic. They're going to be attacking the football, and they're going to first and foremost stop the run and put the ball into Russell Wilson's hands. That's where I think you really need your QB to step up this game.
Well, and I think another thing is the aspect in which you see New England, how they play. And look, Sean Payton told us in his conference call that we have to be able to run the ball as good, or if not better than we did against the Cleveland Browns. And we can't run the ball the way that we did against the Detroit Lions, against this team. But New England makes that so hard because their edge guys will literally play contain. Their linebackers fill very well inside the interior gaps. And they got guys in the secondary that come up and take good angles in the run game. Like, they are a truly disciplined coach team. Defensively, that's their biggest strength of this team. And it's been this way all season. And against the Kansas City Chiefs, okay, Kansas City won 27-17, but they effectively had no run game here. The New England Patriots held them to 43 total yards rushing here. Now get this, the leading rusher for Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 13 carries, 37 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's biggest run of the day was a 20-yard run. So think about that. That's 2.8 yards per carry. And really the biggest run of the day was 20 yards. After that, everything was in a vacuum. The Patriots tightened up there. Jerick McKinnon couldn't do anything in the run game as well, even though he threw a touchdown against them. But that's where I think the Broncos, they're going to be in trouble in this game if they can't find a way to have a balanced passing attack. And it can't just be the home run ball. It can't just be the dump it out to the flats and hope you get yards after the catch. New England's going to key in on Samaje Perine on key passing situations on third down. And he's obviously their go-to guy in those instances. But if Denver can't find a way to hit those crossing routes in the passing game, this is going to be a very tough challenge for them. If they can't do anything offensively, they better hope and pray that the defense can maintain for 60 minutes of a football game. To me, that's where the biggest kind of concern comes in. And obviously, I think they have talented defensive linemen as well. I mean, you take a look at their top guys, Christian Barmore, Dietrich Wise Jr. These are two guys that can absolutely wreck your game plan on the interior if you can't account for them in terms of pass blocking and even run block protection.
Right, exactly. And so I think that means the Broncos are going to have to be on point with their script, right? They've been pretty, I would say, on point with the script the last handful of weeks. I mean, you try to think off the top of your head. I mean, they haven't necessarily scored every opening drive, but they looked much better in that third quarter opening drive against Detroit, right? Of course, aided by a little pass interference penalty there, but you get a touchdown on the opening drive of the third quarter against Detroit. You also had something really cooking on that first drive of the game before Russell Wilson was stripped from behind there once again in enemy territory, which has happened way too many times this season. But I think if they can succeed on the script in this game, it sets them up in a really good position to be able to win by multiple scores, right? Because the same fears that we have for the Denver offense are the same things I think that New England side is going to be thinking about, right? I mean, they're going to want to force the ball into Bailey Zappe's hands, and they're going to want to rush the quarterback, pin their ears back, play tight coverage. That's what they've done well all season. When I'm speaking about the Denver Broncos right now. So the Broncos offense needs to be on point when they're on the script. They need to make sure that they take advantage of that first drive of the, first half and the first drive of the second half, put points on the board there, preferably 7, right? But that's where they're going to have to be on point, because if they can get out to a decent lead against a team like this, the Patriots, kind of like the Broncos right now, just don't feel like a team that's built to really come from behind and engage in a sort of shootout like that. So you can get up early in a game like this. That's where the Broncos offense needs to be on point early in this game and make sure you can get out to at least 7-0, if not 14-0. If you can do that, you put the Patriots in a really tough spot.
Yeah, you do. And like the influx of what we talked about against the Lions, we said it, Denver being down 14-0 in that game felt like a death sentence for the Broncos, because we've seen them struggle in those positions of coming from behind. So they can't afford to be in that position overall here. Broncos Country, we're eager for your thoughts here. When you look at the New England Patriots defense, what are some things that stand out to you that maybe give you some concern heading into this matchup? Let us know in the YouTube comments, or if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, you can interact with us on social media at Cody Roark NFL, at Sayre Bedinger, at Locked On Broncos. But Broncos Country, that'll wrap up today's episode of the show here on the Locked On Broncos podcast. We'll keep you covered throughout the entire week. You're going to have a crossover Thursday episode with Locked On Patriots. We'll go through our bold predictions and also our keys to victory, players to watch. You can expect all those things and much more this week here on the Locked On Broncos podcast.